types of vulnerability. So under domain 2, your knowledge understanding of the different types of vulnerabilities will also be tested. And we have the application is a type of vulnerability. And under application, we have memory injection, buffer overflow, race conditions, time of check, time of use. Then we have malicious update. So this means that any website or any applications that has these vulnerabilities are subject to being exploited. So memory injection is a type of vulnerability. This is where an application is not properly verifying inputs. Buffer flow, the buffer basically is meant to store certain amount of data. Now, if an application is pushing more data than the buffer is allowed to take into that buffer space, it can cause a buffer of overflow. Then we have race conditions, we have malicious updates, updates that are not meant to happen, or update from wrong website. These are vulnerability. If an application is carrying out updates that it is not supposed to carry out, then it can be as a vulnerability. Then we have operating system based vulnerabilities. These are vulnerabilities that are linked to the operating systems, the way you're operating. Then we have web-based vulnerability. These are examples are structural query language injection. This is when a database is being targeted using SQL statements that are malicious. When a web-based application is not properly filtering input, then this a structural query language injection is a vulnerability that can be seen on such web. Then we have cross-site scripting. This is a client-side vulnerability when a malicious code, when a web-based or HTTP, or basically web cross-site scripting happens is an HTTPS exploit. So this means that the website can take malicious code can be inserted into the website and then causing authentications to be disrupted, or the authentication process of that website to be disrupted. This is a vulnerability, the type of web-based vulnerability. Then we have hardware vulnerabilities. These are vulnerabilities that are linked to firmware, end of life, legacy devices. Basically, it's talking about hardwares that have a firmware that are not good, or firmware that has bugs, or end of life. These are hardware that are no longer, that have reached the end of its life, and then you are still using such hardware. It's a vulnerability. Then we have legacy hardware, which means that hardware that are very, very old, and then probably they are no longer relevant to, or they cannot handle the kind of malicious code or malicious software that are happening around. So hardware can be a vulnerability too. Then we have virtualization. Under virtualization, types of vulnerability considered here include VM escape. This is where a code can be run on a VM and cause the VM to interact with the hypervisor directly. So when you are running a code or running an application within a virtual environment, it is not supposed to interact with the hypervisor that is hosting it, which means the host operating system. So if a code can from within the virtual environment interact with the host, then that is a VM escape. So virtualization is a type of vulnerability. Then resource reuse also, when a application in a system or in a virtual environment makes use of certain resources when it makes use of certain resources, and the data that are being processed by the resource is left for another resource to make use of. So after using a particular resource, all data that are associated with that particular resource or that particular operation are supposed to be cleaned off, so that when another resource is being used to process a different set of data is not mixed up. So, but when data from a previous resource being used is still available for a new resource, then is a vulnerability that should be checked. Then we have cloud specific vulnerabilities. We have supply chain vulnerabilities. Supply chain vulnerabilities include vulnerabilities that are caused by service provider, maybe a hardware provider or software providers. Then we have cryptographic vulnerabilities, things like poor misconfiguration or downgrading. Then we have misconfiguration. We have mobile device vulnerabilities. These are vulnerabilities that are linked to what the way the mobile device functions. Things like side loading And so when a mobile device allows you to install application, allows installation of applications that are not from genuine source, maybe just by Bluetooth or by near field, communication, side loading, then jailbreaking is an example. When an Apple locks, a particular device from being accessible, jailbreaking is when you are carrying out privilege escalation by breaking through the security that Apple has created on that particular device. So jailbreaking is a vulnerability. Then we have 0 day. 0 days particular vulnerabilities are features or errors. They are errors that are not yet known. These are faults or bugs or things that are in a particular device or in a particular system that is not yet known, by the manufacturer or the owner. So 0 day vulnerabilities always leads to 0 day attack. When 0 day attack happens, usually the target does not know that such faults or such bugs exist within their system. Then finally, we have mitigation technique used to secure the enterprise. So when we're talking about mitigation techniques includes segmentation, access control. Access control makes use of access control list, which is a list of uh, device, is a list of the resources that are allowed to access certain, or a list of services, or a list of rules that controls the way resources are being accessed within the network. Then we have permissions. Then we have an application allow list, which allow what feature or what resources or what kind of data is an application allowed to access. Then we have isolation. For instance, isolation could mean removing a particular device from the network so that there's nobody that can access it unless you physically present in front of the device. So this is a kind of mitigation technique to secure the enterprise. So we have patching. Patching simply means updating, updating your software or your operating system regularly. Encryption. Encryption is a way, to protect the confidentiality of data. And sometimes when hashing is involved in the encryption, it also protects the integrity. So we have monitoring. Continuous monitoring or regular monitoring is a mitigation technique. Least privilege means you have access only based on what you need the resources for, based on the roles you are performing within the organization. Then we have the configuration enforcement. Enforcing a configuration means that the change management, when configuration is being carried out, it is ensuring that configuration are being properly done. So configuration is a way to mitigate your mitigate vulnerability, or mitigate an enterprise from having unnecessary threats, mitigating risk. And then we have decommission. Decommissioning simply is removing a device from being online once it's no longer in use or not used. You decommission such device, you remove it from the network, means you decommission it. Then we have hardening techniques. So when you harden your system or harden your device, is a mitigation technique for protecting or for securing the enterprise. And hardening could mean encryption, installation of a particular endpoint. Then we have protection too. Well, host-based firewall, use of firewalls could mean protection. Firewall will prevent access by people who are not supposed, or by resources that are not supposed to access it. So we have host-based intrusion prevention. Then we have the system HIPS. So we have intrusion prevention system-based intrusion prevention. We have disabling of both some ports and protocols. This will help to prevent uh, open port vulnerabilities. Then default password changing, ensuring that the default password is changed, is a mitigation technique. Then we have removal of unnecessary, you know, applications. So applications, softwares that are no longer necessary within your device should be removed. Also, software can be used to mitigate. Software include things like antivirus, installing the proper antivirus or installing the proper software for maintaining security. These are all ways to mitigate techniques. Go over this video from time to time to get familiar with the topics, you get familiar with different things that will be covered under CompTIA Security Plus Domain 2. Once again, this is Cyber Culture Interface. If this has been very helpful or if this has been helpful in any way, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.